Hello. Well, it's 2 o'clock exactly in the morning, but who can sleep when you're going through a revolution? On Tuesday, a group of members of Parliament who don't want Brexit seized control of Parliament. I'm serious. They seized control. They might as well have just marched in with machine guns. They called an emergency debate. Well, this is Britain after all. The emergency debate was allowed by John Bercow, who is the Speaker of the House and is supposed to be neutral. I can't judge the pros and cons of that. Some say he could have prevented the debate and others say no, he was duty bound to allow it. But since Bercow is a very outspoken Remainer, let's see, wrong microphone again. The sound quality might change now, I don't know. He's a very outspoken Remainer. I'm inclined to the opinion that he was not as neutral in this as he should have been. But I'm not a constitutional expert, so I can't be authoritative about that. The debate culminated in a vote and the Remain faction won, 328 to 301. They won because 27 Conservative MPs voted with them. Johnson immediately withdrew the whip from them. Now, some of you might be thinking that not being whipped might be rather something to which to look forward, but not with the British aristocratic proclivity for physical punishment. No, actually, I jest. The whip, originally an expression from fox hunting, referred to the whippers in, the people who controlled the hounds. And the whips in Parliament are responsible for making sure that the MPs turn up for votes and tell them how they're supposed to vote or whether there's a free vote or not. And that's not all. They also supply information, support and contacts. When the whip's withdrawn, the MP is effectively cut adrift without a political party, and even worse, also not up for re-election, because when the whip's withdrawn, their constituencies are usually told to find another candidate for the next election. And Johnson immediately did withdraw the whip from the 27 rebels and then told the constituencies to find somebody else. Now, everybody's gearing up now for the prospect of another election, but I'm not so sure that'll happen either. But it's very difficult to say. I'm making this video at, as I say, 2 o'clock on Thursday morning, and I can imagine that even now there are constituency managers making frantic phone calls because they want to be ready for this election, which might or might not happen within the next 5 weeks. Everyone knows that if it does turn into an election, it's going to be the most terrifying election in British constitutional history since the last one, because it's not the first time Parliament has hit a minefield, and it won't be the last either. The cull of MPs, by the way, has been some of the most senior and well-known members of Parliament within the past 20-30 years, I think. People like Kenneth Clarke, Oliver Letwin, Margot James and Nicola Soames, they've been around forever. They're very well known and in most cases very respected. Ken Clarke, he's been an MP since 1970, and Nicola Soames, as commentators keep pointing out, is the grandson of Winston Churchill. Mind you, I don't know why that should mean anything. Carl Thomas Mozart was the son of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and he ended up as an accountant. Anyway, back to Parliament. The emergency debate resulted in the passing of a motion, and by George, I can't think of anything more appropriate to describe what has happened than to say Parliament passed a motion, because they really have produced a mammoth pile of, well, mammoth droppings. The motion was that Britain could not leave the EU without a deal. When that passed successfully, Parliament was then entitled to debate and then pass a bill which will delay Brexit until January the 31st next year. So far, the accepted knowledge is that this will force Johnson to call a snap election, but he might not be able to do that. You see, the election used to be in the power of the Prime Minister. You know, he might just wake up this one morning and while drinking his breakfast coffee, think, oh, I'd like an election, and then an election it will be. But as a result of a deal that David Cameron made with the Liberal Democrats, when he needed them to make a majority during his first term, a law was passed that all parliaments, irrespective of the wishes of the people or the Prime Minister or anyone else come to that, are locked into a fixed term unless there's a 2/3 majority for an election. Now, here we have the amusing situation of most MPs being so terrified of the possibility of a Labour government that they're actually holding off on that one. And that even goes for some Labour MPs. Look, you guys in America, how would you feel if suddenly Donald Trump had to go and the next and only candidate for the presidency was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? That's enough to have you waking up screaming in the middle of the night. Even many Democrats would feel that that level of incompetence combined with the superhuman self-assurance is nothing but disaster. So we've got that here in Britain, and even the Labour Party, even Jeremy Corbyn seems to be holding off proposing a vote of no confidence in the government, which would trigger a by-election, a general election. Sorry, it's very late, I'm very tired, and I'm not going to be correcting this or snipping bits out because I just don't have time. I want to get it loaded up because God knows what's going to be happening tomorrow. It might all have changed, and at least I'll have got this up at the right time. And talking about timing, it's the worst possible because Parliament is going into its usual recess right now. And then there's the conferences after that. And during that time, there shouldn't be any Parliament. And the thought of a general election suddenly cropping up here, well, it's sort of like the bride going into labour at the altar. And that's what we're all afraid of, actually, going into Labour, because no one wants the Labour Party to win this one, even several of the Labour MPs, some of whom abstained from the vote. Well, I mentioned that before. The thought of Jeremy Corbyn in number 10 is enough to curdle the blood of even some of the most dedicated socialists. And there we have it, the news at 8 minutes past 2 on Thursday morning, and probably, maybe 2:30 before I finally get it uploaded. Have a nice day, everyone. If you want to donate or contact, the information will be rolling over the Graniopteryx as I speak. Please like, subscribe and share because it does help with the algorithm. If you visit my channel on YouTube and one day discover that I've disappeared without warning, you'll still find me on BitChute or Minds. Just go to either of those platforms and do a search for Graniopteryx. If you're already watching this on BitChute or Minds, good for you. Meanwhile, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember that you must keep checking the subscribe and bell icons because occasionally they reset. Till next time.